You see these crazy cyber attacks in the news and wonder, how on earth do they do that? Well, it's not some kind of dark magic. It's actually a playbook. And today, we're going to tear that playbook apart, piece by piece, so you can see exactly how it works. And, more importantly, how to stop it.
You know, this idea from old school crime scenes is surprisingly the ace up the sleeve for cybersecurity pros. It's simple. Every single thing an attacker does, no matter how sneaky they think they are, leaves a digital footprint. So for the good guys, the mission is crystal clear. Follow those breadcrumbs and shut the whole thing down before real damage is done. So to get our heads around this hacker playbook, we're using a really powerful framework laid out in the book Cybersecurity Kill Chain: Tactics and Strategies. And listen, this isn't just some dry academic theory. Oh no, this is a hands-on guide for taking apart and beating even the trickiest cyber attacks out there.
And here it is, the Cyber Kill Chain. It was originally cooked up by Lockheed Martin, and it breaks down a complex attack into 7 clear, sequential stages. But here's the most important part, the real game changer. It's a chain. That means if you can break just one of these links, the whole attack just falls apart. It's that simple.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The first couple of stages are all about prep work. Think of it as the quiet before the storm. This is all the sneaky, careful planning that goes on behind the scenes way before you'd ever know an attack was coming.
First up, reconnaissance. This is literally the digital version of casing the joint. Attackers are like spies, just gathering intel, digging up everything they can on a target. What software do they use? Who are the key employees? They're poking and prodding, looking for that one cracked window, that one unlocked door, the weakest spot to get in. Now, they can do this in 2 ways. There's the passive approach, where they're basically invisible, just scraping public info from places like LinkedIn or company websites. Super hard to spot. Or they can go active, which is a bit louder. That's when they're directly poking at the target's network, using tools for things like port scanning to literally check which digital doors have been left open.
So, how do they pull this off? Well, they have a whole toolkit of what's called open source intelligence, or OSINT tools. You've got things like Shodan, which is like a terrifying search engine for literally every single thing connected to the internet. Then there's Multago, which is amazing at drawing maps of how people and their digital lives are all connected. Heck, even a clever Google search, something we call Google dorking, can uncover secrets that companies thought were buried deep.
Okay, so with all that juicy intel gathered, it's time for the next step, weaponization. This is where the attacker goes into their digital workshop and forges a weapon. They take an exploit, that's the key designed for a specific lock or vulnerability, and they attach it to a payload. And the payload, that's the nasty bit, the malicious code that's actually going to do the damage.
And here's what's really unsettling. Building these cyber weapons has gotten way too easy. You have these frameworks like Metasploit and Cobalt Strike that basically automate the whole process. It means that even a relatively new attacker can take a super powerful exploit, maybe a 0-day that nobody even has a patch for yet, bundle it with a backdoor, and create something that can slip right past some pretty serious defenses.
All right, so the weapon is built. Now it's time for the break-in. Let's see how they get this thing from their computer to the target.
Stage 3 is delivery. This is the launch. And you know what the biggest vulnerability is here? Us, humans. The #1 delivery method, by far, is a good old-fashioned phishing email. They make it look like it's from someone you trust, create this fake sense of urgency, and all they need is for you to make one little click. And yeah, phishing emails are king, but don't think that's their only move. They've got other clever tricks. For instance, they might hack a website they know a company's employees visit all the time. That's called a watering hole attack. Or, and this one is classic, they'll just drop a corrupted USB drive in the company parking lot. They know someone's curiosity will get the better of them. And that click, that leads us to exploitation. This is the boom moment. The trap is sprung, you click the link, you open that sketchy attachment, you plug in that mysterious USB, and just like that, the weaponized code ignites. It finds that vulnerability it was built for and uses it to bust its way into the system. You know, today's attacks are rarely just one and done. They're usually what we call an exploit chain. It's a series of steps, one leading to the next. So an attacker might start with a small exploit in your browser, then use that foothold to trigger another exploit to get admin rights, and then, only then, do they execute their final payload. It's a patient, calculated, step-by-step takeover. I mean, we've all heard the horror stories about big, famous exploits like Eternal Blue, right? That was the monster behind the WannaCry ransomware mess.
But honestly, it doesn't have to be that dramatic. Something as simple as a malicious macro hidden in a Word document can be just as devastating. With a bit of PowerShell scripting, that innocent-looking doc can give an attacker the keys to the kingdom.
Okay, so the attacker is officially inside the network. But getting in is just the first part of the game. Now, their whole objective changes. It's not about breaking in anymore. It's about staying in. It's about setting up shop and getting long-term, persistent control.
And this is where the installation phase comes in. To make sure they can stick around, they'll install some kind of malware, like a backdoor or a rootkit. This is their permanent key. It guarantees they can get back into the system whenever they want, even if the machine gets restarted. With their backdoor installed, the malware needs instructions. And that brings us to command and control, or C2 for short. This is where the malware phones home to a server that the attacker controls. It creates a secret communication channel, a direct line for the attacker to send commands in and pull sensitive data out.
And to keep this channel hidden, attackers get really creative. They'll disguise their C2 traffic to look just like normal web browsing. They'll use sneaky techniques like DNS tunneling to slip past firewalls. I've even seen them hide commands in plain sight in things like Twitter posts or Telegram messages. And with modern frameworks like Sliver C2, setting up these covert channels is ridiculously easy.
And finally, we've reached the end of the line, the grand finale, actions on objectives. This is the whole reason they went through all this trouble. This is the payday. Whether it's stealing classified data, encrypting everything for a massive ransom, or even using the compromised network as a launchpad for their next attack, this is where the real damage happens. So that's the attack. It sounds pretty grim, right? But remember what we said at the beginning? It's a chain. And that means you don't have to defend against everything, everywhere, all at once. You just have to break one link. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now, how to break the chain. Okay, so how do we fight back? We can map our defenses to every single stage. For reconnaissance, train your people about the dangers of oversharing online. For delivery, get a powerful email security gateway that can spot and block phishing attempts. For exploitation, a strict, timely patch management program is your best friend. It closes the doors before attackers can even knock. And for those final stages, installation and C2, that's where endpoint detection and response, or EDR, comes in to spot weird behavior, and solid network monitoring can catch that malicious phoning home. See, the cyber kill chain isn't just a theoretical model for understanding how bad guys work. It's a completely different way to think about your own defense. It forces you to put on the black hat, to see your own network through an attacker's eyes, and to ask that one critical question. Hey, if this explainer helped you get a better handle on how all this stuff works, it would be a huge help to us if you'd hit that subscribe button and give this a like. Seriously, it's what keeps the channel going and lets us make more content like this for you. Thanks for hanging out with us, and stay safe.